Welcome back, everybody. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are looking at my Elna Lock Pro 5 model L5D. It's kind of a mouthful to say, but anyway, this is, of course, the first home serger project I've ever taken on. You guys get to watch any success I may or may not have with it, along with the failures, which may come, but that's just all part of learning. Okay, so last installment I was showing how to replace the brushes. It's beautifully simple. It's no different than most sewing machines. You just have to get access to the brush ports, what I call a brush port, and the other one is on the other side of this. So again, I had taken all the panels off, you guys can see, and I was able to get underneath here. So now it is time to reassemble the machine. We want to put it back together. So one of the things I have to do is try to remember the order I took these parts off. You basically have panels on the front, and there's a panel underneath here, and also one that covers the motor. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna, once again, I'm gonna cantilever my machine and sort of prop it up with this old sweatshirt, because I don't want to stress any part of the machine that doesn't need to be as I hold it up. And once I get the bottom on, then there we go. And then I can sit it upright and really don't need to do any more propping, I don't believe. So at the moment, we've got two major pieces here that we're looking at messing with. One of them is the bottom, and I believe, my theory here, guys, is that, remember, I found some washers. I had found some washers that were sitting in the bottom of the machine when I took the bottom off, and I think that those washers are for these areas where the bolts that hold the bottom in go. Now I only see two. Some of them may have gone, but these line up perfectly here. Right? Sometimes you just have to kind of go exploring. They line up exactly, okay? And I have not disassembled the motor. The only other time I see washers like this typically are on the motor. They're used for spacing. So that is what I am intending to do. I need to, figure out what did I do with my bolts, my bolts. And I have them. They're sitting right over here on the side piece of the machine, and these are the bolts. There are four, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, which is something else. Now, when you line up a panel, it should be fairly obvious. You can see there's a lot of holes under here, and this is the thing, you always want to know what it is you're trying to attach, right? Now, this bottom piece has attached to it, this is the front panel. This panel gets opened and closed when you're threading the machine. It's a very important, precious part. So I'm going to notice it's in a closed position. Okay, give a little more space here. You guys can, there, maybe that's a better view. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, just as if it were on the machine already, I'm going to lay this down. Now I've disengaged it. There's a spring, it's spring loaded. And I want to disengage it because that's going to make it easier for me to attach without it flapping and smacking into the machine. That's my theory anyway. We'll see how that works out. Sometimes you just have to try. Now, I have two of what I believe are 4 washers. And these washers are basically, if I'm correct, the washers were basically designed to protect, it gives a little buffer for the plastic up against this, the steel frame of the machine. I think that's what they're for, okay? If you guys have a better theory, let me know. I'm gonna go into my stash of old parts. I've talked to you guys before about never throw stuff away, keep things like washers. Now, I have no parts that I'm aware of that go to a serger, but this is a washer, and who knows, I may have a washer that's similar in size I could probably use. If not, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not the end of the world. I'll go ahead and reinstall the bolts just like, I plan on. And again, as with anything plastic, be gentle. Metal and plastic don't always play well together, and we're talking about 20, 35-year-old plastic here, guys. So we want to be, we want to use a gentle hand when we're reattaching these things. Well, guys, I've been looking into this is my little box of salvaged screws, bolts, washers, nuts, hinges and so forth. You never know what you might need. And I've been able to find parts before. Now, it's not a surprise. I don't think I'm going to succeed in my search for a similar washer. The closest thing I found was this, but of course, this has the inside opening is smaller than what I need. The only thing else I found was this, but this is more of like a crush washer, and it's not the same thickness. So, no big deal. Not a tragedy. It's okay. Not a problem. But I thought I'd check. Why not? That's why I, set up this little box that I have. Now, what should I do to make sure that these, I have a feeling that someone serviced this machine in the past, and when they did, they took it off, and that's when these little washers fell. And looks like I see another little, this is some, I thought I had gotten a bunch of this with the vacuum, but I think this is oily lint, so it didn't come off with the vacuum. And it was just sitting there, so why not take it off? This is, again, another chance for me to look at the, the underside, make sure, because remember I did some vacuuming. I may have, some of the lint may have fallen, or maybe I just didn't see it. Sometimes you have to look at something multiple times before you can, try to catch everything you can, right? It's there's a lot of stuff here. And again, be gentle, because we have a wick system that runs throughout. Virtually every moving part of this machine has wick near it. So you want to be careful. Don't destroy the wick when you're trying to clean out. In fact, I don't have any alcohol in this situation. I'm literally taking the cotton swab, and the cotton fibers will help sort of pick up anything that's loose, which is really what we're after here, right? We're not here to sterilize or clean the wick. We just want to make sure there's no major lint hanging on it to any degree. And again, if you have dust inside and maybe you can't get to it, as long as it's not flying around, right? Some of this dust has oil, and it tends to stick to the inside walls. That's really an aesthetic thing, and you can't, that's kind of a stretch even, because who's going to look at the inside? The reason you clean here is to make sure your machine is happy when it functions. The machine doesn't care if it has lint on the inside. It's not going to be upset. So, okay, now, what am I going to do? I would very much like to have, at least I can use 2 of the washers that I've got. And I could also try, right now, we're still in lockdown. Eventually, when the hardware store's open, I could even go looking for some if I wanted. But these are not crucial. If you have washers that are on a motor and the motor's been disassembled, those can be very crucial. So those matter more. In here, I think I can take care of this machine without causing any major harm, just being extra careful. Heck, even with the washers, you still want to be careful when you're dealing with any kind of plastic. I think all of us at some point have been let down by plastic, because it has a lot of great features and advantages, but not always. So, what am I going to do? I would like these washers to stay put, because when I turn this panel up, they're going to want to go flopping around. There's a little trick you can use. We can either attach the washer to the body, right? Or we can even attach it to the plastic tray that's about to be reattached. And I thought about oil, but then I was even thinking grease might help. Okay, I've actually got a syringe with some lubricant grease here, and I'm going to apply this. It's not because the washer needs to be lubricated, but we're going to use it kind of as a makeshift temporary glue. I know that sounds a little odd, but bear with me here. So I'm just going to take, in fact, I think it may be easier for me to leave these stuck onto the chassis or the frame of the machine. So I'll put one right here. And I'm not putting the grease in the threaded area. That's not what I need. Now I'm just going to take the washer, put it there, and it just kind of holds it there like a temporary glue. Don't use glue here. Do not. because you don't want anything that's permanent. No adhesive there. I'm just using the grease. It's kind of sticky and it holds the washer so it doesn't go wiggling around when you're trying to get the panel back on. What am I doing here? I should be doing the surface that I'm going to put this on instead of the washer itself. Should be paying attention to my own technique here. And again, this is based on a theory that the washers are designed to go here, because I have found no other place for them. Could be wrong. Maybe it's not. Maybe it goes in a different spot. You know, does it go over here? Or does it go over here? I suspect there were 4 originally, so I'm going to keep, instead of doing them catty corner, I'm going to try to do them here on the back, so that at least it'll be even. Front side to side. Again, this is all theory here, guys. Now, I mentioned to you guys that the bottom panel is going to be reattached, right? Let's see. Now I have to. Of course, it goes in the other way. Now, I have to figure out how I'm going to set this machine up so that I can get the bolts, get the piece unbolted, right? Because I've got to get this, it's this front panel I got to be real careful about. I do not want to break this, okay? So how am I going to do that? I've got to do it in such a way that will let me attach it without creating more problems. So, let's see here. Oh, another thing I'm going to do, and these bolts here came out pretty easily, guys. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put, and I try to remember to mention this when I'm doing this type of thing. I'm just going to put 1 drop at the very tip of the bolt, okay? And as I screw them in, that oil, not a lot, just 1 drop is fine. And that oil will spread, and it'll just, if you ever have to remove it, it may be you that has to remove it again, it won't be a big deal. Right? You won't have to stress over that. Now, let's see. How do I put this back on? I believe I know which way it goes on. It goes on like this. But I have the panel below and I have to be extra careful. So, I'm going to pull out the camera, give a little bit different view here. Now I've got to figure out what to do with this. I may end up moving, I'm moving my sweatshirt prop up here, way up higher. Now, that means that my machine's tilting down a little bit, and I have a device here I've got to be careful of too, right? I have a thread tensioner here. I think this is for the cover stitch thread, I believe, and I don't want to damage that. Okay, because I had the thing propped up further, but now more weight's coming here. So now I need another way to prop this up so that I'm not going to have any damage to what is most certainly an important part of the machine. Let's see if I can I'll just use my little case here. I think I will. Maybe I won't. We'll see. It has to be tall enough to prop this up, so that I'm clearing. This piece down here is now no longer, it does not have weight on it, okay? There was maybe a tiny amount, but the sweatshirt movement has now made this, well, we have another problem. If I'm going to get the panel around the front of the machine, that's not going to work either because my box is now in the way. So, what I may do, because I know the front panel goes up to the front there, with being extremely careful, what I may end up doing, and I've still got my washers in place, they're good to go, right? They're still lined up fine, no problems there that I'm aware of. Now, I'm going to take this panel, make sure I've got this, I'm pretty sure I have this in the right spot. Okay, now I'm going to line it up with the holes, okay? So far, so good. I'm grabbing the chassis underneath. I can tell I'm holding on to steel here. Okay, washers are still good. Now I'm just going to take one of the bolts here and get it going. There's my... And even though this is one of those that I'm going to use that, remember guys, I've got the washer behind on this one, but still, you're still only tightening them till they snug. Boom, a stop. You know, when they snug, you really want to stop there. Don't keep moving. You don't want to do that. You never want to stress plastic. And okay, and then that one is stopped. Just got two more here. Now, another way to do this, guys, there may be other ways to prop up this machine. You could also have someone help you. It's not that heavy. You could have someone hold it for you while you did this. It's not taking that long. But the point is, you don't want to stress any part that is not really strong, because it won't survive being used as a prop for the weight of this. Okay, I've gotten all of these done as I had hoped. Now let's make sure that I didn't totally ruin the front panel. And if you take a look, you'll see the front panel is doing as it should. It's got the little thread diagrams there. This piece is fine. This piece, it looks like it's a little loose, but it was already loose. There's a little Phillips screws we can use to tighten it. But for now, it seems to be okay, thankfully. Don't want to try to have to replace that. Now, there was another piece in the back, and it's a cover. It looks like this. You guys may remember when I was disassembling this. And of course, it attaches with these screws, but from underneath. And so if I leave both of them in there, I'm sure one of them will drop. So I'm going to hold it like this, okay? And I'm going to simply go to, let's see. Now, I have the side piece to attach as well, right? I have the side cover, but now I've got to remember how it goes in. Because if I get that wrong, then I may have to disassemble it again, right? Because notice that this piece has a plastic clip that holds it flush with the side panel, right? And it's plastic, so we want to be gentle either way. You know, do we put this on first? I believe, I'm trying to remember when I took this off, I think I'm going to put, I may put the side panel on first. I'm trying to remember, because there was a certain order you had to take these off in, because they often would not cooperate unless you did it in a certain way. This is a great reason why you might want to videotape or photograph your own disassembly so that you can remember how to put things back together. Okay, well, you know what? We'll just do the bottom cover. And if the side panel won't go on because of that, I'll just take the bottom cover off. It's not, again, it's not a, you can certainly have more than one shot at this. Okay, now I've got the, and again, I'm holding this up with my hand. I don't want to stress parts on the front of the machine. I'm trying to get it going with my fingers, if possible. Now, if I've got it threaded correctly, this will go well for me. Okay. Okay, it's going in a little bit. Let's get make sure the other one here is going to be happy. Now, let's make sure that it snugs up right here. I want to make, and I think I have that. I have these screws. They don't go flush. They actually hang down a bit. But they didn't fight me, but I'm going to stop. When the screw stops, I stop. Okay, now, I'm pretty sure that the front panel and the top panel were some of the first pieces I took off. So I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to do this in the reverse order what I did before, and I'm doing it from memory, guys. I haven't even looked at the earlier video. If I need to, fine, but at the moment, no. Everything here looks fine. The belt's in very good shape. It doesn't have any cracks. It doesn't need replacing. And the belt's fairly easy to, excuse me, fairly easy to access once this is off. So, oh, look at that. Check your pieces. Look, I still got lint here. I got to get rid of that. Ugh. Get all that. I think the reason this lint did not fall out is because it's got oil and it's sticky. It's like sticky dust. Sticky dust. Is that a new word? Do you guys have a better word for sticky dust? Kind of making that term up as I go along here. Okay, so there are other pieces that attach to the panels, but the panels have got to be attached first. So there is no bottom screw for this piece. There are two screws that hold this on. There's one here, and then there's this one, which goes all the way in, and I'll have to describe how this works. This is a screw that has two components to it. Okay, let's see. Okay, sort of like a piece of a puzzle, right? It's sitting there, it's not attached. And now I can move this sweatshirt out of my way and see if I can find the other pieces. I've got the two screws in the top panel here. That'll be going on last, I believe. Okay, here is one of the two side screws. One of them is very deep. Well, we know which goes where because even though these look like they have the same diameter, you'll notice that this one has to seat in here. So we're going to put this one here. Oh, got to do my drop of oil trick. Well, it's not a trick. I didn't invent it. I can't even remember where I saw it. Now I've got that on there, so if I ever have to remove them, these came out pretty easily. Wait a minute, that's not the hole. What am I doing? This, I take that back. This is actually a good thing to show you guys because you may make the same mistake I almost made. Notice here, this looks like a hole you'd put a screw in, but when you push in, it's actually not. This is a side piece that holds two of the thread cones, right? It will attach to this when this is installed, and then this is not actually a hole, it's an indentation for this little plastic nub. You see the screw and the nub, okay? Sometimes you just have to, like I say, you just have to kind of go carefully, and it's pretty obvious. Now here's this screw, I'm pretty sure goes here, because it was a fairly long screw, and it's snug, good. This one is going to go here, and I actually need a straight screwdriver tip for this one, because this one it attaches this panel to the chassis of the machine, but then it also has a screw opening for the little shelf, the little spool cone holder. And when I do this, right, I'm just gonna keep going until it stops. It'll stop. It'll start to tighten up and snug when it's ready. And I'm pretty sure it was fairly flush, if I recall. Again, just trying to remember. It's a little wide. Let's get one a little more narrow. Okay, it's snugged up just like that. Now, I don't have to, this can actually be attached later, but this is how it's going to attach. There's a screw, and or a bolt, whatever you want to call it, and then a little nub that's going to attach just like that. But before we do that, I want to make sure I can get my side and front panels on, and then we'll finish up. Now, let's see here. I do know that the top went on, came off first. So we're gonna go to, first of all, let's undo this and make sure. Remember, there was a piece down here and there was a piece up here. Now let's see if we can remember which one. They're specific. So if you're not sure, just look at the screws here, the bolts, and line them up. And sure enough, it only goes in one way. So that's where that goes. So let's get a Drop of oil on each one of these. Again, I had no trouble removing them, but because I've had so many sewing machines in the past, you guys, you've seen, or maybe you've experienced sewing machines that were frozen and locked up. Again, it takes no time at all, and now I don't have to worry about it. I'm not the least bit concerned. Now, I'm trying to remember, before I attach this, I think, if I remember correctly, that the front panel has, notice it's not broken. That looks like broken plastic, but it was designed this way. It's going to rest on these screws. So I'm going to install the screws here, but I'm not going to put them in all the way, right? I want to make sure that that front panel can fit flush. We'll get the other one going here. Actually, it goes snug. I think that the Elna folks designed it because when I snug up these, there's a space. Let's get this back on here. If you guys can see, there's actually a gap between this edge of the frame and the end of the screw, which I believe is actually there to allow for this front panel to be installed without any fuss or bother. Now I could do more cleaning of this before, but I can still clean it after it's back on. Now, I don't know if you guys remember when I was taking the panels off, pay attention to your take-up arm, okay? You can control the position of the take-up arm, obviously, with the hand wheel, just manually with your hand. Make sure that it's centered because you want this front panel to go on without any fuss. Remember, it's got to come behind this thread guide and rest on these little bolts here. And so I got it over the take-up arm okay. But if you're struggling, I know that you may laugh at yourself. I laughed at myself when I realized I was like, oh, how am I going to get this off? And then all it took was a little bit of movement with moving the take-up arm. Sometimes you have to laugh at yourself because you'll do things and you'll realize, wow, I was making it so hard. Believe me, I can give many examples of that. Now, remember let's give a little close-up here. You guys can see a little bit better. Now you can see the screws that I put in. Now I did them until they were snug. Now I'm going to pull back. I'm not taking them all the way out, but let's give a little more room and until we can get, there we go. Now the panel just seated, right? It's like almost like a little collar. Now we just now here guys, be very, very gentle, okay? In fact, I should turn this more slowly. Notice I'm turning it slowly. Trying to make sure you guys can see what I'm seeing. Okay, and as soon as it snugs up, I stop because there's plastic on the other side. And again, look, it's not going anywhere, okay? It's not, this is not a part of your, some big machine that's going to shake loose. And it's better to have to tighten a screw than it is to figure out how you're going to replace plastic because you were, a little over enthusiastic about putting it in. Okay, it's starting to look again like it did when I got it, in terms of, visually anyway. Now this is on, and this, of course, let's make sure it lines up just fine. Okay. And there's an opening here, but there's supposed to be. You say, well, why does this is flush as it should be, but there's a gap because, of course, thread's going to be moving down in here. Okay, what am I left with? We are left with the roof of this machine, and it only goes on one way with this large hole in the upper position because it has to cover over the presser foot adjustment. And I like to do, when I'm putting screws together on anything, especially plastic, what I like to do is kind of balance how I'm tightening them so that I don't warp the piece. Maybe I won't, but I like to, again, take my time, and I can feel it. It just snugged up. And again, if you over snug it, just pull back just a hair, like a 1/16 of an inch, okay? always err on the side of caution with this. This is true of any, not just home sergers, this is true of anything vintage, whether it's a vintage sewing machine or a vintage waffle maker. You know, give the machine a break. It's it's plastic parts and it's old plastic parts. Heck, even new plastic parts can have problems. Okay, where are we? What are we left with, guys? I'm fighting the clock here as the sun is starting to set, but I was so excited to have this sunlight. Okay, let's connect the little one first here. Let's do that. You guys can see the original gray. It is now sort of an olive tone. And what do I do? Oh, there went my little screw there. Okay, so again, you have a hole for the bolt, screw, whatever you want to call it, and then there's a nub on this side. And I think that's just to help it stay stable so it doesn't, wobble. And you don't have to tighten the screw drum tight because you have that little nub, and that little nub is there to act as in some ways as a way to sort of balance it. Okay, so you guys can see I've got my thumb on this bolt so it doesn't pop off. The little plastic nub here, be gentle. It's going to rest here, and then I'm going to screw in this bolt. And let's see. I'm going to lower this. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, guys. It's kind of a the sergers require a different view. They have different ways to. Okay, now this bolt is not tightening very much. Make sure I've got it lined up properly. I didn't feel that the threads were cooperating, so I pulled it out. We're going to try again. Oh, that's much better. Yeah. When a screw or bolt is going in nice and smoothly, you'll know. Okay? If it's not, then just stop. Here's it snug, and I'm going to pull back maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Give it a break. Let it have a little bit of flex. It is plastic after all. What are we left with, folks? We got one more to attach here. And this, of course, is the larger of the spool pins that hold the thread cones. And this one is, I guess, the simplest of all. You've got 2 bolts and you got 2 bolt holes. So we'll just get these bolts ready. And hopefully this one will be the least confusing to attach. And just like I did with the other one, again, I've got metal bolts going into metal threaded holes, but they're going through plastic, okay? So make sure, let me tilt this to give you guys a better view. Make sure that when you're snugging it down, go slowly, and when it stops, just come back 1/16 of an inch. And just come back. What that does is it's still firmly there, okay? It's not loose, but it just gives a little bit of expansion space for the plastic, okay? 35-year-old plastic. I'm impressed that it's in the shape it's in. I'd like it to stay that way. Now, there is one area here that I would like to have some lubrication. Now I want to show this to you guys because remember I was telling you the very first sergers that were made by the Juki company, they made the baby lock, right? I guess they meant that like Overlock Junior, a home version of an industrial machine. Now you'll notice, see, this is under pressure. Now I can loosen the pressure up here, but it's supposed to be under pressure. But that means this is being stressed. Now, if this were metal, I would be greasing this. But one of the things you may not want to do is that because it's plastic, the grease could cause the plastic to break down. So what about that? Where is there a place for any grease where grease should go? And I think there is. You can use sewing machine oil, but I have found that if I use grease or Singer lubricant, I don't have to do it as often. Okay, I don't want. Where's my pointer? This calls for a pointer, and I just realized I have forgotten one thing that we have yet to attach. Did any of you guys catch me? I hope you did. I just caught myself. Okay, I do not want grease between here, the plastic lever, and the metal, because the grease degrades plastic. But what about here? I've got metal and metal up here, and this piece moves in a slot. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put grease right there. Okay, and I'm going to make sure, got a little paintbrush here, I'm going to make sure, let me get one of my cotton swabs. I don't want a lot here, okay? I want to remove the excess because I want to keep it away from the plastic. Now, when this comes up, I don't have lubricant on the plastic, but I've got it here where metal and metal are moving. And that's good enough. That makes me happy. But I forgot something, folks. This was on the front. So, don't feel bad if you have to redo something. The first thing we need to do is get this in a better position so you guys can actually see. Do you guys catch what I did? There's something missing here, underneath here. Now, sometimes you guys watch me and I'm working on machines, and many of these machines I have overhauled many times. There are certain machines I love to work on, and I will do them, you know, no matter how many times, I never get bored. Singer 201s, you guys know this, many of the early 50s Neckies. Now, there's one other piece, and I forgot to put it in. I'm so excited to put this in. Maybe you've been there before yourself when you're doing something and maybe it's going well, and or at least you think it's going well. Now, let's see. By the way, while I've got this open, this is what's missing, guys. This is the upper thread guide. There's a lot of thread guides on the home serger. And if you look at this back behind it, you'll see all these little flat sort of leaf springs, right? So they're designed to, even this thing is sort of dynamic, right? It has a dynamic, there's some movement that goes on there. So what do I need to do here? I need to install this. Now I don't have to take the front off because this was designed to sit right like this, and then the top cover goes above. But of course again, this is my first serger. If you ever are working on a machine and it's something really just clicked, you feel like it's going well, it's easy to get excited about it and miss something, but it's okay. The machine is fine. It didn't hurt anything. And sometimes you might even put a part on in the wrong place. The most important thing you can do when you're trying to either disassemble or assemble something for the first time is to remember that if something is not fitting well, or if it's not coming off, it's waiting for you to figure out some part of the puzzle that you apparently have not. And I need to stand up so I can figure out where those screw holes are. Aha. But again, there's nothing that's going to beep at you or flash at you. You really are listening to, for example, is the screw going into the hole properly? Is it the right location? If it's not, the machine may fight you. Now, when something is being disassembled, a machine can fight you because it's just got old oil and it's frozen, it's very gooey. That's different. But what happens when you're putting something back like this, and it's not quite jiving, something doesn't feel right? It's probably because you have the wrong thing in the wrong place or in the wrong order, right? Sometimes things have to be taken apart in a certain order. Okay, so here I am. Now I'm going to back off about a 1/16 of an inch. I'm getting, it's an estimate, guys. It's not, I don't have a, and then I'm going to come off just a bit. Now I've got just a little bit of, it's there, but it's, I want it to be snug, but I don't want it to be overly snug. The plastic will not forgive you. Now let's come back with with the lid. And now it's going to look like what it looked like when I got a hold of it, only now it's been cleaned and oiled on the inside. Again, guys, this is not normal oiling. I'm going to, again, balance both sides so I don't overstress one side of this panel. It may seem like I'm being overly cautious here, and maybe I am, but you know what? It's better to do that than to end up with something broken, especially knowing that you broke it yourself. Okay, so I'm going to make it snug and ease up just a 1/16. There we go. There we have it. Now, for normal oiling, okay, and the owner's manual will describe, you know, there's certain points that you can reach easily over here. I just opened this up here. There are points that you can oil, and you're meant to have access to this section. And of course, when we look at the back, there is, you guys can probably see this, it looks like it's brass or something. This is the access port for oiling on this serger, okay? And you'll notice this little port is attached to that cup that I showed you guys earlier. And that little reservoir holds oil, and then it goes down into the wicking. So, the Elna, she has not run. You guys know, my approach to sewing machines generally. I really want to poke around and see what's going on with them before I turn them on. And sure enough, I have yet to turn this on. I don't know, in fact, that it works at all. But I do know I don't want to stress it. I don't know the kind of condition. I don't know how it was treated. I can guess in the past. So notice I'm doing a lot of work to the machine. Haven't turned it on yet. And still not ready to turn it on. You're like, when's he going to turn it on? When's he going to turn it on? Well, the next phase of my investigation on this machine is going to be, I believe, by the way, I have some parts that are yet to have arrived. I've ordered. There are cone or spool, there are thread cone holders that go. They look like little badminton birdies. That's the closest thing I can describe them to you. Anyway, those are on order because this machine didn't have them, and I didn't even know that I was supposed to look for them. Have you ever done that? Have you ever bought a machine? It's like, oh, I didn't even know that was missing. How would I know? And I didn't. I just bought it, and I said, you know what? I'll take a chance. And I've got cones coming. They are generic, but they should fit this machine. Cones. I have cone supports coming. I even have cone spool caps, and I'll talk more about those when they come. So this machine was missing parts, but nothing that was that difficult to find. I mean, this is an older one. I had to do some searching, and they're not particularly expensive parts. Again, I wish I had taken more time to see what all I needed, because I ended up ordering from the same supplier. I think it was Sewing Parts Online. I think, and again, I don't endorse them. Like I say, I found the parts I needed. I ordered from them. They have been shipping them. Shipping is slow because of the pandemic, but they did come. But if I had taken more time to realize everything that I was missing, I could have ordered it once and paid the shipping. It would have been a lot cheaper. I spent more money on shipping than I did the parts, and I ended up doing 2 orders, so I had to pay shipping twice. But you know what? You live and learn. Again, if this was any of my vintage sewing machines that you guys are used to seeing me restore, I typically can make a list of what I think I need pretty quickly just because I've done it enough. But I've never worked on one of these. So far, so good. I also have, what else do I have? I have actually decided to order some blades. Now, when I try this machine out, if the blades in it are cutting fabric well, no problem. I'll save the replacement blades. However, if these don't, I wanted to have the blades with me. I didn't want to have to wait another 6 weeks or whatever it's going to take. Again, I don't blame the sellers, because shipping is a mess. It just is. The postal services are a mess. I hope maybe as the pandemic gets under more control, that shipping won't be as onerous as it's been. Some of you may have had similar experiences where it's taking longer for things to get to us. But if you have to wait, you have to wait. I do have needles. I'll do a video on needles. I'm going to have to, research the manual, see if I can figure out how to install the needle. I'm hoping that the loopers here, if the looper is, hopefully it's not bent, it might need to be tightened. but I noticed that the looper and the needle are touching each other and the needle's bending. So I got to figure out what's going on with that. I'll be going into the SERGER groups. I've joined a SERGER group trying to learn. Again, taking what I know of sewing machines has been helpful, but I still, you know, if you've never done a SERGER, we're in some ways in the same boat because I've never worked on one either. But it was worth a shot, you know, and I thought, well, why not give it a chance? And this one has more metal in it than certainly almost any new home serger does. And so I figured, well, if in today's dollars it would be worth $2,600 new, maybe I should give it a shot, right? And then maybe I may try using it, doing a little something with it. But like most of the machines I service, I'll end up finding it a new home. Someone will say, you know, I'd really like to have that Elna. At least I hope so. But, you know, I always say, oh, I'm going to keep something. We'll see. Maybe I will. I've already decided to keep the BU Mira. And maybe I will find a serger that I decide to hold on to. But I've said that before. So I appreciate all of you guys watching. If you would like to know when a new video is going to post, you can feel free to subscribe to the channel and click on the little bell symbol, and it will let you know when a new video's been uploaded. Thanks again, guys. Hang in there, and soon I hope to have more videos on this old Elna, this Swiss-designed, Japanese-made home serger. And those of you who have sergers and use them, feel free to share your comments and let me know what you think makes a good serger and what drives you crazy about them. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next time.